me, what have you done to be noticed in your previous commands? And I think that this question was shaped from a female perspective, right? As a female leader, an officer who's made commander, and what have I done as a female officer to sort of make it to where I am, at least within my career. And so my response is going to be somewhat about being a female leader, but most of it's going to be generalized for everybody. So, as far as being a female officer and somebody who's achieved the rank of commander, I would say, my approach to handling that as a gender minority in the military has really not been to make that part of my identity as a naval officer, right, and as a professional. And so, I approach, my business and my career as in I'm here to be a leader. I'm here to be a logistician. I just happen to be a female. And I think back to the time, right, serving on board submarines, being part of the integration of women on board submarines. And as I worked with my command triad, one of the early questions to that process was, right, how do we handle having women on board submarines? And my response and with my command triad was, you treat us like naval officers, you treat us like submariners, because that's who we are, right? We happen to be women. But when we start segregating ourselves as a minority, then we're not part of the team. We're separate from the culture that we're trying to build here. And so bring us in and treat us to the same standard as everybody else. And that's been my approach to being a female officer. And at least it has served me well in my opinion. So, and helped me through challenges that I've had. Now, beyond that, right, being successful as a professional naval officer, I would encourage everybody, men and women, to be students of your career. I think that's really, to me, more important than, overcoming maybe a barrier of being, a female minority, right? Is that be a student of the career that you want to have. So, and I think that goes across all levels. Personally, I think you have to have a vision and look very inwardly on, why are you here, right? Not only the reason why you applied for commissioning, and however that came about for you to become a Supply Corps officer, but also the reason why you wanted to be a leader, why you wanted to be the United States Navy, right? Where do you want to go personally with your professional career? What are those things that you value and that motivate you? And continue to kind of circle back on that all the time, right? Continue to sort of provide yourself that rudder check about why you're here. Are you achieving those things that give you fulfillment, right? And where is that alignment within the Supply Corps and within the United States Navy? I would argue that one of the benefits of the Supply Corps is the versatility we have in our careers. We cover so many weapon systems, and we're all over the globe, right? There is, and I know that there's conversations about the flexibility and detailing and things. So, but outside of that, right, even with all of that, there is so much diversity in this career that we have that, with a little bit of time placed into working your own personal vision and understanding what the Supply Corps can offer you at each step along that career, being a student of that process, knowing a career map, both in short and long term, I think it will help you find a place within the community, find your purpose and meaning with what you want to do today, what you want to do in a couple of years, and where you might end up along the way, right? I think too, sometimes that being a student of our careers and this community, specifically the Navy and what we expect of naval officers, it helps level set expectations, right? If you're aware of what the Navy is asking of the Supply Corps, if you're aware of what the Supply Corps is asking of you as an individual, asking of your teams, maybe asking of your boss, when you start to study and really dive into those things, you start to be able to manage the expectations for yourself and then project that out into the people that you're leading a little bit better, right? And again, it's finding comfort into your place into this whole ownership. And so when I say student of your career, I mean it for you. I mean it for understanding what your boss is valuing, understanding what pressures your boss has on their shoulders. So how can you help within that process? Understanding the challenges of the sailors and the civilians that you may be leading, right? If you're a student of that relationship and interaction, right? Now you can be more adaptable. I think knowing yourself is important too, right? Knowing who you are as a leader, studying your own personal strengths and weaknesses and finding a way to leverage those so that you are benefiting and aligning to your command, the supply corps, the Navy mission. The last thing I would say too is, surround yourself with a team and a tribe of good people, right? So none of us are going to do this job alone. One of the best parts of the supply corps to me are the people within this community, right? It's the reason why I never left. It's the reason why I'm happy to stay. It's the reason why I love this job specifically, is the opportunity to spend a lot of time with supply corps officers. And I wouldn't have gotten to where I am today, and I wouldn't necessarily see the vision that I have in the future if I didn't have a lot of really good people around me, a lot of really good, close friends who I can talk to when I'm angry, who I can laugh about silly things when those happen. Those are the people that keep me grounded in who I am and call me out on my BS. You need that to feel, I think, humbled and to feel a place within this. The mentoring portion of this as well, right? Having those trusted mentors and folks that you can, again, bounce ideas off of, get a reality check, have them educate you, again, back to studying your career and yourself. It all sort of goes back into that feedback loop. But having those relationships, having some of those healthy practices, and that working on your vision for yourself, it all goes together to, I think, mature yourself into what potentially could be a very successful and long career. And I hope for everybody, it is a long career, and we recognize it's not for everybody, but hopefully you make those decisions with, a lot of good information at hands. And you're always welcome to call me, right? Happy to talk to anybody. As I said, I like the supply corps. I love supply corps officers. But those are some of the things that have helped me throughout the years, helped me get to where I am today. Captain Turner, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add as far as, being successful in this career, but that's sort of my thoughts.
The one thing I would add is really understanding how to put everything together and recognizing that as a supply corps officer, you have a unique opportunity in that you have the opportunity to touch multiple warfare domains, multiple aspects of what we do to be a part of the solution set. So many of us will take the time and say, hey, I really want to do BFM. I really want to do contracting. I'm really interested in OR. But the purpose and the design and the vision is to make you an end-to-end supply chain integrator. So what does that mean? So as an example, maybe you work in the Pentagon and you're doing spares. Well, it's much more than just ILS. You have to understand working capital fund and appropriated dollars and the POM process and how that works. Then you have to tie that into buy repair plans for contracting. Then you have to tie that into understanding models, how they work. Is it a demand-based model? Is it a readiness-based model? Is it a maritime system? Is it an aviation system? Are you working with NAVC? Are you working with NAVAIR? Which resource sponsors are you working with and what are their priorities? And as you're able to look at all of these things and put it together, then when you're talking to senior leaders and we have to make decisions in trade space, you're able to say, well, if we don't support this spares process, then ultimately we can't meet this mission because we won't have this capability. And you will be surprised at how many people will start to look at you and recognize the value in your expertise and your ability to take all of those areas, but create a whole picture. And once you're able to do that, you will start to really grow. You'll grow in your relationships. You'll grow in your ability to communicate. You'll grow in your ability to understand up and down and laterally with the echelons, with other services as well. So I would offer that taking the time as you're studying yourself and studying what we do, learn how to take all of our disciplines and weave them into one picture, because ultimately the goal when you're a commander or captain is to be an end-to-end supply chain integrator. And again, once you're able to do that, you're really making some strides for the supply corps and for the Navy.